Shalom. I'm Rabbi Davidovich, speaking to you from mp4, Israel. We're going to talk about the Netivot Shalom's view on this week's Parsha, one part of it. And we're going to be, the Netivot Shalom, of course, was the Slonemer Rabbi, and the book we're talking about is this particular book. And we're going to start on Kuf Pei Daled, 184. Kol Asher Dibra Hashem Naaseh V'nishma. Just as a introduction, the Netivot Shalom was this gentleman here. Hope you can see that. He passed away sometime in the 2000s. I don't recall exactly when. So he's pretty much a contemporary person of the Hasidim. So because we're getting a little bit of a late start, I'm going to kind of summarize what the first page is about. So in this Parsha Mishpatim, towards the end of the Parsha, it says the following things. It says, Vayavo Moshe came, Vayasapir Loam, and he told the people, strange word, Vayasapir, told, because normally we have the word Vayomer Alehem, he said to them, Vayadaber Alehem, he spoke to them. Here's Vayasapir. And the Netivot Shalom is going to ask why, and we're going to get into that. Then it says Vayasapir Loam was called Divrei Hashem. It's called Mishpatim. He told the people all the words of God and all the words of the laws. Remember that this is, even though this appears in the Parsha, in the Torah, after Yitro, where the Torah was given, this is really talking about before the Torah was given. And there's a general concept, which I think he also he talks about here, Ein Muktim U'Muchar b'Torah. There is no real chronological order to the Torah. So you can find things that really should be in one place, but they're in another place. Then he goes on, Vayan kol ha'am, and all the people answer, kol echad, in one voice. V'yomru, and they said, kol ha'devorim asher dibra Hashem naaseh. Everything that Hashem says to us, based on what you're telling us, Moshe, we will do. Naaseh, we will do. Then the next sentence says, Vayichtov Moshe es kol divrei Hashem. The first one was just talking. He was telling what the words were. Next time he wrote down all of the words of Hashem. And the Parsha say that refers to from the time of the beginning of creation, from Bereshit, up until right before the Torah was given. So he wrote all these things down. And then this book that he wrote is called the Sefer HaBrit. He says, Vayikach Sefer HaBrit. He took this book of the covenant that he wrote, Vayikra ba'oznei ha'am, and he read this in the ears of the people. Vayomru, and then they answered him, Kol asher diber Hashem Naaseh V'nishma. All that Hashem said to us, we will do, and we will listen. We will do, and then we'll learn what it's all about. So you can see right away a difference, because the first time they just said Naaseh. Now they said we will do. Now they said Naaseh V'nishma, we will do and we will listen. Why that difference? And then the overriding question of all of this is, what sense does it make to say, yeah, I'm going to do something without having any idea what you're going to do? Normally before you accept a responsibility, you want to know what you're responsible for. So what is that all about? So this Netivot Shalom is going to talk about that. By the way, the words Kol Asher Tomer Hashem were similar to that. Naaseh also appears in Parsha Yitro before the Torah was given. Then the question that is going to be asked is, this Parsha starts with the words Ve'elu HaMishpatim, and these are the laws. And a lot of commentaries on that, but basically, Rashi says just as the Ten Commandments were given at Sinai, at Mount Sinai, so too were these laws given. So what does the Parsha start with? It starts with all kinds of laws. It starts with the civil laws, criminal laws, laws between man and his person, things that are not specifically in the Aseret HaDibrot, not in the Ten Commandments, but these are laws which are certainly included in the Taryag Mitzvot, the 613 commandments, but they're not part of when the Torah was given. And these were told at the beginning of this parsha, the beginning meaning the first 6 aliyot of this parsha, the bulk of the parsha, and then at the very end of the parsha, just after Shvi, are the sentences that I just read, that Moshe read all these things and they said Naaseh V'nishma. So then the ultimate question that is asked is, why is there this great division if we're going to be talking about Har Sinai, which we do at the very end, because just after the things that I just told you about, then Moshe goes up to Har Sinai, goes up and gets the luchot, the tablets of stone. So why doesn't this follow directly? Why this great division of all these other laws before you get back to receiving the Torah? So those are the basic questions that the Netivot Shalom asks. On the first page, in talking about how it's possible for somebody to say, I'm going to do something, I'm going to agree to undertake this responsibility without knowing what it is, he basically says, he makes a comparison between Avraham Avinu, between Abraham, our father. Avraham Avinu, it is said, fulfilled all of the laws of the Torah even before they were given. So how is that possible? So he goes on, he explains that when Avraham Avinu was 3 years old, he recognized the existence of God in the world. He recognized that everything that's here is the result of God. He had that so embossed on his neshama, on his soul at 3 years old, that there was no question about anything else interfering with that. So he had reached a level, and we talked about it last week, we talked about it before, he had reached a level of having emunah in Hashem, not only in intellectual belief in Hashem, an emotional belief in Hashem, emunah b'lev, but also his evorim, every part of his body. And we see that when he was about to bring up his son, which he thought was to be as an offer, to bring Isaac as an offering, he wanted to reach for the knife. His hand wouldn't move because his evorim, his hands, his bodily parts knew that this is not what Hashem wanted. So he had that degree of perfect emunah. And therefore, with that degree of perfect emunah, even if he didn't know what the Torah was going to say, his evorim knew. The parts of his body knew intuitively and followed, and it wouldn't allow him to do anything that wasn't according to the Torah. That's pretty much what he says in the first page, and you can, in your spare time, read through that first page. I want to go down to the second page of this Netivot Shalom, and the first main paragraph. It says, in the abbreviation is mp4, which means Valpi Zeh, mp Zion, I'm sorry. Valpi Zeh, understanding this, he says, Mevor ha'inyan, we can understand Naaseh Kodem V'nishma, how we can say we will do before we understand, before we learn. The Hine Omer Chazal, our sages have said as follows: Yisrael Mish'amdu al Har Sinai, Paskuz Hamasum. When the Jewish people stood at Har Sinai, at Mount Sinai, before the receiving of the Torah, all of the contamination that they had when they were in Egypt was cleansed from their body. Hainu shenizdake hachomriot shelahem bioter. Everything, all of the materiality, the bad materiality that they had accumulated over the years in Egypt, were finally cleansed. And because of that, they were able to come to this level of Naaseh V'nishma, saying we will do and then we will learn, because at that level, they had already reached the level where their Avorim, where their various bodily parts were understood what God wanted. So they were able to do that. I'm sorry, I read it wrong. Before they even knew what they're supposed to do, their very bodily parts, their limbs, knew by themselves how to fulfill the will of God. And with this we can explain what we say in the Haggadah. We say in the Haggadah in the Dayenu, at the Seder. We say, Ilu kervana lifnei har Sinai, v'lo noson lenas haTorah Dayenu. If you, God, had only brought us before to Mount Sinai, where we are right now, and not given us the Torah, that would have been enough for us. Shalachura, my hayalonu mizeh, shekarvana lifnei har Sinai. He says, how does that make sense? What does that mean? That it would have been good if you brought us before Mount Sinai, but then but then give us the Torah. He answers, says, Ella, HaPerush, the interpretation of this is, Ki ba'omdom al har Sinai, when the Jewish people were standing at Mount Sinai before they received the Torah, Paskazu Mason, they were completely cleansed of all their contamination that they had before. But these dakach hachomer shalahem, all of the negative materiality that they had within them was purified. V'az gam im lo hoyu mitztavim b'matan Torah, even if they hadn't been commanded the Torah at the giving of the Torah, avereihem hoyu nimshachim me'atzmam lasus ritzon Hashem, because they were in such a purified state, their various bodily parts would be able to fulfill the will of Hashem. K'moshe Kayim Avram Avinu Eskolatorus, just as Avram our father fulfilled the entire Torah. Achein, next paragraph. Achein Baal Haggadah Messiah. So the writer of the Haggadah finishes. He says, Shetova Kufala B'chupelas L'makom Aleinu. Despite the fact that he says Dayenu would have been enough just to bring us to Mount Sinai, he says, what a great miracle that we have, that God has doubled the reward, not only brought us to Mount Sinai, but also given us the Torah. He's done both. Because when the Torah was given, there was a new level that was reached by the Jewish people. Besides this level that they reached through the cleansing of their contamination, called Tarek Mitzvahs, until their very limbs did all of the 613 commandments. Od Hosif Lana Kodesh Baruch Hu, God added to us Tzivui al Kol HaMitzvos, the commandment to do all the mitzvos, to fulfill all of these commandments. Shehu Madrega, either to fulfill, to do, or not to do. Right? There's two kinds of mitzvahs. We have mitzvahs asay, positive commandments, we're told to do something. Mitzvahs lo sas, we're told to refrain from doing something. Shehu Madrega Yoter Gavoa, because this is a higher level. Once God has commanded us to do these mitzvahs, not only that our avarim, not our sins, our limbs, not only do our avarim do the mitzvos, but yoter gavoa, because this is higher. Why? K'mo shomer Chazal, as the sages tell us in Gemara Kedushin, Gadol hamatzuva va'oseh, mipi she'einu matzuva, mimi she'einu matzuva oseh. Somebody who is commanded to do something and then does it, that person is greater and gets greater reward in Olam Haba, because there's no real reward in this world, gets greater reward than somebody who just does a mitzvah that's not commanded to do. And that's an important concept. Gadol hamatzuva va'oseh v'mi she'einu matzuva oseh. The fact that God commanded us. And he's going to explain how this applies. V'ayin sham, and look at, we see there, masha kasa b'zeh, what is written on this. Does he say it in here? I think he says it in here. He's going to point out a difference between doing a mitzvah because that makes sense to me. The nations of the world, most of them, honor their parents. The commandment, kabed es avicha, honor your mother and your father. But that isn't, and because it's a nice thing to do, because, if you respect your parents will give you things, etc. There's good things. Most people, most civilized people, I guess I should add, don't go around killing people because they know it's not a good thing to do. Life is precious. But the Jew, to fulfill those commandments of honoring your father and mother, it's not because it makes sense to do it, but rather it's because God commanded it. And the proof is that if you're doing something because it makes sense, it might make sense in this particular time of your life and in this particular century or this particular decade. But who knows what's going to happen later on. We know that you're not allowed to kill somebody. I just heard that, I don't want to get political, but I just have to mention this because it proves the point, that Governor Cuomo of New York was so excited about signing a bill, and everybody was cheering, signing a bill which allowed termination of pregnancy up until the moment before the baby is born. That, the moment before the baby is born, just think about that. God forbid, that's like a living creature. That's saying it's okay now to kill under certain circumstances. That's why what the Torah is teaching us is you can't observe the Torah because it makes sense. You have to observe the Torah because God told us to observe the Torah, right? Because it's a mitzvah. It's a mitzvah to love your neighbor, your neighbors. It's a mitzvah to love your parents. It's a mitzvah not to steal. It's a mitzvah to have courts of law, not just to give guys like me as an attorney the ability to make some extra money. No, that's not why you have courts. You have courts because disputes should be settled in a way that people could air their differences and have an impartial person decide what's happening. Gadol hamatzuva va'oseh v'mi she'einu matzuva oseh. Very, very important concept. Vayin sham masha kasa b'zeh. So he says, v'yesh lomer, it can also be said, the bir hamadrega v'yechedesh hamitzvah matzuva oseh. Another explanation of this. She'oz yesh b'chol kiyum hamitzvah, in the doing of every mitzvah, Koloshel Chazal, as Chazal teach us, Shomarti v'naseh ratzoni, I have done and you do my will. Shebechina zu, through this aspect of doing God's will, Shayches rak kishiyesh tzivui al kach. So this is because there's a commandment on this. Od bezeh, and also on this, kasher HaKadosh Baruch Hu Matzava, when God has commanded, Hare Hatzivui Nosen Koach Elyon Liyehudi, the commandment alone, the fact that you know that what I'm about to do is something commanded from God. It's a commandment from up high. The fact that this commandment is given, it gives you power. It gives you the strength, La'amod Bezeh B'chol Nisyonos HaChayim, to be able to withstand with that power all of the tests of life. A lot of what the Torah commands us to do, depending on what you're looking at, depending on what society you're in, may be difficult to do in a particular society. When the the Jewish refugees came to America in the early 19th century, early 20th century, the early 1900s. There was no such thing as people not working on Saturday. And the observant Jew had to make a decision. Do I try to support my family, or do I try to keep Shabbos? And you had to make that decision. It wasn't a popular decision. There were very little types of work that were available. A lot of them became butchers, because that's all they're kosher butchers. Then they'd be closed on Shabbos. But there wasn't much to do. Many times you're going out with friends, they want you to have a bite to eat. Let's go over to this restaurant, have food, and you got to, show that you're marching to a different drummer. You're withstanding that, and the Hashem gives you that power if you want to do the mitzvah, to be able to do the mitzvah. In Yonim Harbe Yesh b'Torah, there are many things in the Torah, which according to nature, Ein hada mesugal l'chaim, people don't always want to do. Rak mashesh al zed sivui, only because there's a commandment. Zed nosen lo koach lagil. This fact of the commandment gives you the power to be able to do it. Ha'ola al kulanu, b'malas inyan hatzivui, and above all this thing in the aspect of a commandment, is hu Hashem yisborach hitzivui ala davar nia shorash elyon. Is a recognition that when God commands us something, this is a connection, like a root being connected to the tree, connecting to the higher power of a kedusha yona mitzvah, and the higher holiness in this mitzvah, in doing this commandment. Shebechol mitzvahs b'Torah yesh shoresh elyon. Every single mitzvah that you do isn't just an isolated mitzvah. You're doing the mitzvah connects you to the root of the world, which is Hashem. Kasha Yehudi Mekayim mitzvah, when a Jew does a mitzvah b'shum Hashem yisborach tziva, because God commanded it, harihu mamshich al atzmo kedusha elyon, you bring down upon yourself a higher level of holiness. Mishoresh ha-mitzvah, from the root of this commandment, umisdabek ayada b'Hashem yisborach, and you're able to come closer and cleave to Hashem. Valdas shabir b'divrei Moshe, Parsha Kedoshim, as we said when Moshe was talking in the Parsha of Kedoshim, linyan mitzvah kibbut avoim. He says the commandment of honoring your father and mother. Shehi mitzvah hamuvenes b'seichel. This is something that everybody intellectually understands. V'gam hagoyim mekayimim also, and many nations, regardless of their religion, will fulfill this commandment. Kasher adam mekayim zos b'shum shehu mevin kach b'seichlo, because a person fulfills a mitzvah because he happens to intellectually understand the reason for it and agree with the reason of it. Ein ze ela maseh tov gereda. It's a good thing, but that's all it is. You're doing a good thing. Masha ein kain, but unlike kasher Yehudi mekayim zos, when a Jew fulfills this mitzvah, kibbut avoim, of honoring your parents, b'shum shekach tzivu Hashem yisborach, you're fulfilling this mitzvah because this is what Hashem has commanded you. You awaken with this as shoresh ha-mitzvah, the root of the mitzvah, umamshich hayezeh kedusha ayona, and you bring upon yourself this holy level, heightened level of holiness. The aspect of this is, as our sages say, Anochi, the word Anochi, from Anochi Hashem Lakecha, I am the Lord your God, Notrikun Ana Nafshi Kativat Yavit, saying that I myself have written this, as referring that God has written these words. Shaldas Shenefesh Hatzadik Atuf B'diboro, just like the soul of a righteous person, of a tzaddik, is surrounded with the words of God, Kach kaviyachol Hashem yisborach nafsho atufo b'divrei Torah. So too, so to speak, God is surrounded in the words of Torah. Therefore, Hari b'chol mitzvah shetziva Hashem yisborach b'Torah, every commandment in the Torah, yesh bo b'chinas ana nafshi kativas yavis, has this concept of you are being connected with God who has written it, and I, God, am connected with you. Ukeshihuda mekayim es ha-mitzvah, and when a Jew fulfills this mitzvah, Hari zeh medabek osel Hashem yisborach, he becomes closer, he cleaves to Hashem. This is a great thing that Hashem has given us, the Torah has given us. Even though you've reached the level of Amunah be'evorim, where you can fulfill the mitzvah just by your very being, your limbs know how to fulfill the mitzvah, but even though you've reached that level, b'netinat ha-Torah, when God has given us the Torah on top of that, nosefa lohem mashmot acherot chadasha lagamri b'chal kiyum mitzvah. Hashem has given us something to add on top of this. Why? Because Shemiata, from the time the Torah is given, not that your Evorim are just doing the things, but yesh lohem es hamadrego haliyah shel mitzvah osa. You reach that higher level of doing something because you're commanded to do it. Every mitzvah has a connection to above. In receiving the Torah, there are included in that logical mitzvahs, things that make sense for people to do. Like don't kill, don't commit adultery, don't steal. Liot chelek haTorah kodesh. This is a part of the Torah. Afshehem mitzvos hamitchayves gam etzad seichel ha'adam. But these are also mitzvos that are part of the intellect of a person. Just like the peoples of the world also do these same mitzvahs. Ach b'kabbalas haTorah. But by the time you receive the Torah, kibul mitzvos elu mashmot acheres. You receive this mitzvos in a whole different light and a whole different purpose. But kavana, v'havana acheres, and a different intent and a different understanding. Kvar ein ze also lo tzirtzach shabli kabbalas haTorah. There is nothing like you shall not kill without receiving the Torah. Shigam b'pashtus harei tzvi haTorah, because in general this is the commandment of the Torah. Yeshna ofnayim shall be shekol enosh hayamakom latir. As I said a minute ago, there are times when no matter what the mores of the society happen to be, there are times when people will say, well, we can relax that. And we can do different than that. You can be matur, you can permit that which was prohibited before, without the Torah. Torah, when the Torah was commanded, was commanded on us, when the Torah commands us to do something, that applies everywhere. You can't say, well, the Torah was given 3,500 years ago. We are now living in 2019. We can certainly change what the Torah has said. No, the Torah has given us a body of halacha to be able to interpret halacha, to interpret the laws in accordance with various principles, but not to change what the Torah has said. What the Torah has said is eternal. It says, Ach be'ikar kamer, you have to remember, the most important that you say, because of the commandment, you have added this inner connection to the root. V'chol mitzvah b'Torah, tamuni b'shem ha-mitzvah. In every mitzvah of the Torah is hidden in the name of the mitzvah. Upsuki sodos elyonos for shorsh mayonos. There are many higher secrets and connections to above that are hidden in every single mitzvah. And what do we say before every single mitzvah? When we do a mitzvah, we say, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, asher kiddeshanu b'mitzvosav, who has made us holy by your mitzvah. You're recognizing that you're doing this mitzvah not because intellectually it sounds like a good thing. You're doing this mitzvah as a way to make yourself holy. And as you become holy through doing the mitzvah, so too do you become closer to reaching Hashem. Asher kiddushan mitzvosav, Hashem yisborach hichnis b'no kedushas ayudei mitzvosav. Hashem brings into his children holiness by doing the mitzvah. Shebechol mitzvah shehudi v'kayim hu mamshich b'kirbo kedusha elyona. Every mitzvah you do, you're bringing within yourself a holy, a higher holiness. Mishorish ha-mitzvah nosef al etzem ha-mitzvah shebekayim. From the root of the mitzvah that you're doing, you're bringing that higher level. I'm going to skip down the next paragraph on page Kuf Pei Vav, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lines from the bottom of that paragraph. The last word in the line is Yehudi. Yehudi tzorech ladas, a Jew has to know. B'chol mitzvah, b'chol mitzvos ha-Torah shebekayim. A Jew has to know with all the mitzvos that he fulfills from the Torah, shegam im einu mevin es hakavanos hatzmunas b'hem. Even if you don't understand the intentions of this particular mitzvah, I don't know why I have to do this mitzvah. Allah lahamin, you have to believe. Shekala Torah kulo, that the entire Torah, Ritzufa kavanos elyonos, contains a continuity, a constant flowing of these holy intentions, the shorshim elyonim, and ability to connect your roots, the roots to the higher roots. Remember at the beginning, I showed you the difference in the language. At first, when Moshe was talking to them, it was before he wrote it down. He says, "Vayisapir lehem," a strange word. And here he's saying, this is why he said this. Why? Because she'oz adayin lo hayazeh Torah, because there was no Torah yet. Kivin shenemar bal peh, because it was said verbally. And to speak Torah, you have to write it down. You know, when you're quoting Torah, you should look in the Sefer, look in the book, see what it says, not just quote it bal peh. So he was just saying it verbally, so it wasn't the same. Okay, never was that lashon sipur. So therefore, told it in the language of telling, like telling a story. V'rak lacher shekosva. And you remember the next time, Vayichtov Moshe, Moshe wrote it down. After that, shekosva Moshe nitna bedvorim ho'ela kedusha alyona v'shoras hamitzvah. It was after that what he was then saying to them, after being written down, had the holiness and the connection to the higher level, and that's when we said not only Naaseh, but Naaseh V'nishma. We will do, and we will follow. We will listen. Ba'al-pi advorim, and according to these things, you call mitzvah sheditna yesh bo kedusha yona lahorem Yehudi l'davko v'shem yispora. The fact that every mitzvah that you do has the opportunity to raise you up to a higher level and bring you closer to cleaving to Hashem. Haregam